Hello! This video will discuss the history of mercantilism from the beginning to how it progressed and finally how it declined. Let's begin. When the government started to set regulations upon the guilds and specify which certain characteristics were required from the people who wished to join the guild system became in the hands of the government, giving them more control over the guilds. For example, the government could say that guild members had to be tall with brown hair and blue eyes, or short with blonde hair and green eyes. This limited the capacity or members of the guilds. The government's control over the nation's trade is one of the main characteristics of mercantilism. But what is mercantilism? Mercantilism, which was common in Europe from the 15th century to the 18th century, was a type of national economic policy designed to maximize the trade of a nation and especially to maximize the accumulation of silver and gold through a positive balance of trade, especially of finished goods. In other words, unlike free trade, which is when control is mostly in the hands of the trader, mercantilism is when control is totally in the hands of the government, therefore limiting the freedom of the traders. In mercantilism, it was important that trade balances must be favorable, meaning more exports over imports. This was because mercantilism followed bullionism, which states that the economical wealth of a nation could be measured by the amount of precious metal, gold or silver, in which it possessed, which basically meant that more wealth meant more power. This led to a war between European countries over colonies and raw materials. England began the first large-scale approach to mercantilism in the Elizabethan era, making the British the main suppliers of raw material. The English Parliament passed Navigation Acts to ensure the proper mercantilist trade balance, which stated that only English on English colonial ships could carry cargo between imperial ports. In addition, certain goods such as tobacco and rice could not be shipped to foreign nations except through England or Scotland. Mercantilism was centered in England and France, and it was in these states that mercantilist policies were most often enacted. The policies have included high tariffs, especially on manufactured goods, forbidding colonies to trade with other nations, forbidding trade to be carried in foreign ships, maximizing the use of domestic resources. The government was responsible for protecting its industries against foreign competition, banning the exports of gold and silver even for payments, and more. These policies came to the benefit of monarchs, merchant capitalists, government officials. Eventually, people got fed up of this governmental control and interference, and the laissez-faire movement began. This movement started in France between 1756 and 1778, but grew popular in the 19th century, especially reaching its peak in 1870. The main ideas that revolve around the laissez-faire are: there is no need to deprive the locals of their wants in order to increase the profits. There is no difference to the trader between domestic and foreign trade. There is no need to only gain profit at the expense of other nations or countries. Mercantilism declined due to many other factors, such as the way government would allow and aid the leading merchants to monopolize the foreign exchange, meaning it relied on certain corporations to monopolize all the trade or exchanges rather than allowing everyone a fair chance to expand their businesses. This angered the people because they felt like the government was stepping on them. Secondly, there is a less variety for imports, and since they were limited, they were expensive, which was inconvenient for the people. Finally, with respect to the American Revolution, since mercantilists relied mainly on the profits of exported goods, when the colonists decided to boycott British products, the British economy declined exponentially. To conclude this video, mercantilism was beneficial to those who owned the means of production and harmful to the vast majority who didn't. It relied on a high percentage of exports, restricting the locals from having a variety of goods, therefore upsetting the people who believed they did not receive their full rights. As a result, the mercantile system began to decline. Thank you!